Imagine walking into a restaurant filled with laughter, soft music, clinking glasses, and the buzz of conversations you can't hear because you live in silence, and the world doesn't bend to your silence. Now, imagine going on a blind date, finally building the courage to meet someone who might understand you, only to have your heart shattered in front of strangers. That's exactly what happened tonight to a poor deaf girl named Emily. A gentle soul in her late 20s with long chestnut hair tied neatly in a braid, her blue dress ironed perfectly, her hands trembling slightly as she sat at a small round table with a single candle flickering between her and the man who had agreed to meet her. Before I take you through this emotional journey, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss stories that touch your heart. Emily had been nervous from the start, her heart pounding as she watched the door again and again until finally her date, a tall man in his early 30s, with an expensive suit and a restless expression, walked in. At first, she smiled brightly, her eyes shining with hope, but his reaction was a flicker of hesitation, a pause at the table, as if disappointment had already painted his face before words were even exchanged. Emily greeted him in her way with warm gestures, a notebook ready if needed, and her phone set with a text-to-speech app so he wouldn't feel uncomfortable, but his lips tightened, and instead of leaning forward, instead of trying, he leaned back. He didn't even smile. She typed out quickly, "Hello, thank you for coming," her hands shaking as she pushed the phone across the table for him to read. He glanced at it, forced a nod, and muttered, "So, you can't talk or hear." His words weren't cruel, but they carried the weight of judgment, as if her silence was a burden he didn't want to carry. Emily's cheeks flushed red, her hands fluttering nervously as she nodded and tried to sign something simple. "Nice to meet you," but he only looked more uncomfortable. Minutes passed, slow and heavy, the conversation dragging awkwardly. Emily trying again and again to show him she was just like anyone else. Funny, kind, hopeful, but he barely engaged, looking at his phone more than her, sipping his drink like he was waiting for an excuse to leave. And then it came, sharper than a knife. He pushed back his chair, not angrily, but coldly, and said, "I'm sorry. I don't think this is going to work. I need someone I can connect with. Someone normal." The words sliced into Emily's chest like glass. Normal. As if she was something broken. Something less. The restaurant suddenly felt like a stage, every eye burning into her as tears welled in her eyes, though she blinked hard to hold them back. She nodded quickly, forcing a tiny smile as if to say, "It's fine." Though inside her heart was cracking, her dreams collapsing. She sat there staring at the untouched glass of water, the candle flickering like it was mocking her loneliness. But what Emily didn't know was that someone at the next table had been watching. A man in his mid-30s, rugged yet warm-looking, sat with his little daughter, no more than 7, who had brown curls and the same soft brown eyes as him. He had noticed Emily from the moment she walked in, had seen her nervous hope, had watched the rejection unfold. And unlike everyone else who only stared with pity, he understood. He understood because his little girl Sophie was deaf, too. He had raised her alone, learning to sign, learning to love beyond words. And when he saw Emily sitting there alone with tears she tried so hard to hide, he felt something stir in his chest. He gently set down his fork, signed to his daughter, "Wait one moment, sweetheart," and stood up. Emily looked up when she felt a presence beside her table, and for a moment she braced herself, thinking maybe it was another stranger who pitied her. But instead, she froze because this man signed to her. His hands moved gently, clearly, beautifully, spelling out words that cut through her despair. "You deserve better." Her eyes widened, tears spilling before she could stop them. No stranger had ever done this. No man had ever stepped into her silence so willingly. She stared at him, her lips trembling as she signed back, "You no sign." He smiled softly, nodded, and gestured toward his daughter, who waved shyly from their table. Emily's heart swelled, her sadness still raw, but now filled with something new, hope. For the first time that night, she didn't feel invisible. She didn't feel broken. She felt seen. And in that moment, though she didn't yet know it, her life was about to change forever. Emily sat frozen in her chair, her heart hammering against her ribs as she stared at the man who had just signed to her. She could barely breathe, barely think, because no one outside her family had ever spoken to her like this, with hands that carried kindness instead of pity, with eyes that met hers instead of avoiding them. His name, she would soon learn, was Daniel, a single father who had known heartbreak, loss, and struggle, but had built his world around his daughter Sophie, pouring every ounce of love into making sure she never felt less because she couldn't hear. And now, seeing Emily, he recognized the pain in her eyes because he had feared that same pain for Sophie's future. Daniel didn't sit down right away, but when Emily shyly gestured for him too, he joined her. And for a moment, they just looked at each other. Two strangers bound by silence yet speaking louder than anyone else in the room. He was wrong, Daniel signed gently, his hand steady, while Emily shook. "You are more than enough. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Emily blinked back tears, her chest tightening with emotions too heavy to hold. She wanted to say so much. How tired she was of rejection. How lonely it felt to be different. How tonight she had almost given up. But instead, she just signed a trembling thank you. And that thank you carried years of unspoken pain. Daniel didn't push her. Instead, he called Sophie over, and the little girl climbed into the chair beside him, her eyes wide with curiosity as she looked at Emily. Sophie signed clumsily but sweetly, "Hi, I'm Sophie." Her little hands moving with effort. Emily's lips curved into a real smile for the first time that night as she signed back, "Hi, Sophie. I'm Emily." The connection was instant, pure, as if fate itself had woven this moment together. For the rest of the evening, Emily sat with Daniel and Sophie, laughter blooming between them, not in sound, but in light, in expressions, in gestures. She realized she wasn't broken. She realized that her silence didn't make her unworthy. And she realized that maybe, just maybe, the rejection she faced tonight wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of something better. When the night ended, Daniel walked her outside, the cool breeze brushing against them as city lights shimmered in the distance. He looked at her, his gaze firm but warm, and signed, "You don't deserve to be hidden in the shadows. You deserve love that sees you." Emily's tears spilled freely this time, but they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of healing. She signed back, "I thought tonight was the end for me. But maybe it's just the start." Daniel smiled, and though neither of them said the words aloud, both felt it. That spark, that quiet bond that might grow into something life-changing. As Emily walked away, she no longer felt the sting of rejection. She felt stronger. She felt seen. And she knew deep down that this was only the first chapter of a story that would redefine love in her life. So remember this. Sometimes the people who reject us are just clearing the path for those who are truly meant to see us. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel because stories like Emily's remind us all that love isn't about perfection. It's about connection.